security forces dressed in black on a rooftop. Their uniforms different to riot police and local forces. People here say they may have even been part of a separate militia. Dr. Mahjoub Ghari, head of intensive care at Kesreen's main hospital, examined many of the bodies. He says these were professional killings.
The shots targeted the brain, the neck, the chest and the stomach. Therefore, these were murders. The bullets used were strange. They blew up inside the body. The corpses have small holes of ½ centimeter, and it becomes practically impossible to save the victim.
This is where many of the deaths happened, the roundabout now known as Martyrs Square. The names and ages of the victims recorded on this monument. This is where one of the snipers was located, on this rooftop with a vantage point across the entire square. It's not clear whether these shooters were part of the Presidential Guard or connected to the Ministry of Interior. What people here want is those responsible found and brought to justice. Tunisia's interim government says its new Human Rights Commission is investigating crimes here in Kesreen and other parts of the country. But so far, no officials have visited the family of Mohamed Amin Mbarki. The 17-year-old was one of the first to die here. Shot in the back of the head, his family say it was an execution.
I want them to be shot like they shot my brother. I want their brains splattered like they splattered my brother's brain. I want those who shot him to be judged in front of us.
Kesreen's secret police headquarters, burnt and looted. Its agents are now long gone. Ben Ali's regime was brutal, but also well organised. As time passes, finding the truth about what happened here will become increasingly difficult. Nazanin Moshiri, Al Jazeera, Kesreen.
The people of New Zealand have marked a week since the magnitude 6.3 quake hit the city of Christchurch. There were 2 minutes of silence to mark the occasion. More than 150 people from 20 different countries have been confirmed to have died, but officials say the death toll could be as high as 240. New foreign minister in France, officially taking up the position now, Alain Juppé, replacing Michel Alliot-Marie, who was forced to resign following a cabinet shuffle on Sunday. Well, she'd faced criticism over revelations about holidays she took in Tunisia and her ties with the ousted leader of that country, President Ben Ali. In Oman's city of Sohar, troops have fired into the air to break up protests about economic conditions and corruption. Fourth day of demonstrations there. At least one protester was killed on Saturday. The ruler, Sultan Qaboos bin Said, who's been in power for 4 decades, has promised more jobs and better unemployment benefits. And no escaping all of the protests, Jordan, affected by this wave of pro-democracy demonstrations across the Middle East and North Africa. Opposition groups have held demonstrations at the capital. They want greater political freedom and pressures mounting on the king to give up some of his powers. Nisreen Al-Shamaili now.
The revolution bandwagon has yet to roll into Jordan, but the gravity of protests rocking the country is unprecedented. For the first time, around 1,000 members of the Salafi jihadist camp protest in downtown Amman. Their demand, the release of all Salafi prisoners. Their goal, to establish a presence on the streets.
We are here in the name of God and to apply Allah's law.
Viewed as a threat to Jordanian rule, the group is one of the intelligence service's biggest challenges. Here, they were untouched by security officers.
Our prisoners are treated very badly by the Jordanian regime. They live under conditions the dogs inside their palaces would find impossible to stand.
Simmering discontent is everywhere. Here outside Parliament, workers protest to oust the president of the Governmental Federation of Trade Unions. They say he's held the position for 19 years, but fails to represent their views. And outside the Prime Ministry, anti-Israel activists demand the release of former soldier Ahmed Daqamse, who shot dead 7 Israeli schoolgirls in 1997 while manning Jordan's border with Israel.
There is a clear people-driven movement here, and the Arabs are convinced that their demands will be met through pressure on their regimes. Ahmed Daqamse's health is in grave condition, and they won't admit him into hospital. We're working towards releasing him.
Emboldened by the uprisings across the Arab region, the voices of Jordanians are growing louder and their demands greater. By taking to the streets when any opportunity arises, they're exerting more pressure than ever on the authorities and even on the monarchy. King Abdullah faces unprecedented calls for supporting a constitutional monarchy, a move that would significantly curb his sweeping executive powers. Last Friday, thousands made the request for an elected government crystal clear. Whether he'll bow to these requests can't be determined yet, but Jordanians who are more confident than ever say now is the time to make their long-standing demands. Nisreen Al-Shamaili, AlJazeera, Amman.
There have been reports that Iranian security forces have used tear gas to break up anti-government protests in the capital, Tehran. Iran denied that it has jailed two opposition leaders, Mir Hossein Mousavi and Mehdi Karoubi. Children of the two men, however, have repeated their claims on Tuesday that Mousavi and Karoubi and their wives are being held at the Heshmatiya prison in Tehran. Foreign ministries refused to discuss the whereabouts of the men or their families.
As we have always emphasized, the internal issues of our country is completely domestic, and no country is and will be allowed to interfere in the internal affairs of our country. The issues related to these individuals will be dealt with in a framework of law by judicial authorities.
The French fashion house Christian Dior fired its creative director, John Galliano, after a video emerged of the designer praising Hitler and making anti-Semitic comments. This was days after the fashion house suspended Galliano. The incident apparently in a Paris cafe last week. Dior said his behaviour in the video was particularly odious. These are the headlines for you. With the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi under increasing pressure, there are fears about what he might do next. People in the opposition-held town of Nalut say pro-Gaddafi paramilitary forces are on the outskirts, reportedly armed with anti-aircraft guns. In another opposition stronghold, Al-Zawiya, there are reports that food supplies into the city are being blocked. The United States and Britain are considering establishing no-fly zones over Libya. US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has said that all necessary options are being considered. Well, Tunisia's most prominent opposition politicians resigned from the country's interim government. Regional Development Minister Ahmed Nejib Chebi says he's not happy with the choice of the newly appointed Prime Minister. He's the third minister to leave Tunisia's interim government in one day. Well, one of the main opposition parties in Tunisia has been given permission to take part in politics after being banned for years. The Al Nakhta party is led by Rashid Ghannouchi, who returned from exile in January after the former President Ben Ali left the country.